young people of color. And it's really a negative term. So I want us to take that term and throw it away. When someone says, oh, you come from at-risk neighborhoods, or when someone says to you, you are at risk, I want you to say, no, I'm not at risk, I'm underestimated.
Go ahead.
Language matters. So my father described what others would call at risk, but when he talks about that tough and that grittiness, he's talking about being underestimated. And I'll be involved in any program that addresses the underestimated ones, not the ones that are at risk. Because the way I look at it, America's at risk.
Woo!
So my name is Dr. Shango Blake. How are you? I am president of Black Influencers United. We say BU. Can everybody say BU?
BU.
It means we serve black educators. We influence others and we impact black students. And we are the organization that is responsible for bringing the Black Studies curriculum, as George Patterson earlier said, to New York City. If I took a picture of this audience and you're in the audience and I show you the picture, the first person you're going to look for is yourself. Then you'll notice everybody else. It's a problem when we take a picture of history and black people are not included.
Right.
And then we wonder why young black people or people of color are not interested in school because they do not see themselves reflected in the curriculum.
Right.
Speak.
So I want to connect the dots here. Since I represent Black history, and since we're talking about my brother, sister, keeper, and Project Pivot, Pivot Nation, which I love, I want to say that history is most qualified to reward the researcher in his or her research. So here's a little story that you may not know. When you look at me and you look at my father, he's older, so I'm going to just say, he's walking history. I'm a little walking history. But we were responsible for the Million Man March in 1995. How many of you know about the Million Man March? The Million Man March came as a result of conditions in our community where there was what we're dealing with now, what Project Pivot is dealing with now. Violence in our community. Lack of fathers involved in their children's lives. And so 1 million plus black men went to Washington, D.C. to say that we're going to do better.
Right.
It was called the Day of Atonement. And we made a pledge there too, to come back to our communities and serve our communities and be better representatives. Now I heard Mr. Barnett talk about he needs you and you are the future leaders. When I was a young man, that was the work that I was involved in trying to make a difference. At that march, a little history, a person was there. He was a little known senator from Chicago by the name of Barack Obama, who would ultimately become president. When Trayvon Martin was killed, Barack Obama started an initiative through the Obama Foundation, remembering the pledge that he took at the march. And as a result of that, my brother's keeper was born. So you got to see the connections here. So from the conditions that brought about the Million Man March, which Obama was at, we now have my brother's keeper and now my brother's sister keeper. There was another person at the march, a gentleman by the name of David Banks, who would go on as a result of the march with 100 black men to open up a group of schools called Eagle Academy. And it was dedicated to young men of color. And now he's risen to Chancellor of New York City, working and coordinating activities of MBSK, addressing issues in terms of our schools and our children, and making sure they have safe passage to school. So the reason why we're here is we were influenced by that time in October 16, 1995. So again, history is most qualified to reward the researcher in his or her research. My suggestion to you, my beautiful, beloved students, is know your history. Thank you.
Woo.